The holographic display flickered to life across every screen in the Sol system. Ambassador Jackson Martinez sat frozen in his chair aboard the USS Defiance, watching as the Galactic Council's transmission began. What he witnessed in the next 30 minutes would change humanity's relationship with the galaxy forever. 50,000 beings, mostly from the Yatari species, a peaceful race of traders who had refused to surrender their mining rights, were lined up on the crystalline platforms of Nexus Prime. The Council's executor, a towering Krellian named Thaxvor, stood before the assembled crowd with three of his kind, their multiple eyes gleaming with cold authority. Let this serve as a reminder, Thaxvor's voice boomed through the translation matrix, that the Council's word is absolute. Defiance is treason. Treason is death. The execution was swift, methodical, and broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Energy beams turned living beings into ash. Children. Elders. Families holding each other as the light took them. Jackson's hands gripped the armrests so hard his knuckles went white. Behind him, Captain Rebecca Thompson stood silent, her jaw clenched. The bridge crew, seasoned veterans who had seen combat across 3 systems, looked pale and shaken. When the transmission ended, Jackson was already on his feet. Get me a direct line to Earth. Priority Alpha. Within hours, President Michael Harrison convened an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. The chamber was packed, representatives from every nation demanding answers, demanding action. The footage had gone viral across human space. Protests erupted in New York, London, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Tokyo. Humanity had only been part of the Galactic Council for 15 years, a junior member still learning the rules of interstellar politics. But this? This was beyond politics. They executed children, Senator Patricia Williams said, her voice trembling with rage. They broadcast it like it was entertainment. And the Council expects us to just accept this? Ambassador Martinez appeared via hologram, still aboard the Defiance. The Council operates under what they call unity through order. Species who refuse Council mandates are deemed hostile to galactic stability. The Atari refused to give up their homeworld's resources. This was the Council's response. Then we withdraw, someone shouted from the assembly floor. We leave the Council. If we leave, we lose access to jump gate technology, another voice countered. We'd be isolated. Vulnerable. President Harrison raised his hand, and the chamber fell silent. He was a former Marine, a man who had seen war firsthand before entering politics. His eyes held the same steel that had carried him through the African conflicts of 2087. We're not withdrawing, Harrison said quietly. And we're not accepting this either. Ambassador Martinez, I want you to call for an emergency council session. Humanity will be heard. The Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime were a marvel of architecture, a massive dome that could hold representatives from 300 species. When Jackson Martinez walked onto the human delegation platform, he could feel thousands of alien eyes upon him. The gallery was packed. News drones hovered everywhere. This was unprecedented. Junior species didn't challenge the Council. Humans didn't know their place yet. Thaxvor presided over the session, his bulk dominating the central dais. The delegate from Earth may speak, though we wonder what business a fledgling species has questioning Council justice. Jackson stepped forward, his voice steady, amplified across the chamber. Justice? You call the mass execution of 50,000 innocent beings justice? The Atari were guilty of nothing more than wanting to control their own resources, their own destiny. You murdered them for the crime of saying no. A ripple of shock went through the assembly. Species didn't speak to the Council this way. Not if they wanted to survive. The Atari defied a lawful Council mandate, Thaxvor replied, his tone condescending. They were given multiple opportunities to comply. They chose death. No, Jackson said, his voice rising. You chose death for them. And you broadcast it like a spectacle to intimidate anyone else who might dare to think freely. He turned, addressing the entire chamber now. How many of you have sat in fear, watching species after species crushed under the council's boot? How many of you have swallowed your anger because you were too afraid to speak? Silence. But Jackson could see it, in the posture of certain delegates, in the way some species' biological signals shifted. Fear. And something else. Hope. Earth may be young to this council, Jackson continued, but we know tyranny when we see it. We've fought it on our own world for thousands of years. We've bled for freedom. We've died for it. And we didn't come to the stars just to bow before a new set of tyrants. Thaxvor's eyes narrowed dangerously. You dare. I dare because someone has to, Jackson interrupted. Earth formally calls for the dissolution of the current council leadership and the establishment of a galactic tribunal to investigate the Yatari executions as crimes against sentient life. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted, argued, gestured wildly. The Krellian contingent looked ready to order Jackson's arrest on the spot. But then something unexpected happened. The delegate from Sarin, an aquatic species known for their silence, activated their platform. Sarin seconds Earth's motion. Then another. Vrel also seconds this motion. Another. And another. Within minutes, 47 species had seconded Earth's call. Not a majority, but enough to force a vote. Enough to show that humanity's words had struck a chord. Thaxvor's expression was murderous, but council law was clear. A formal investigation would proceed. That night, Jackson sat in his quarters watching Earth's news feeds. The street protests had turned into celebrations. Humanity had stood up to the most powerful organization in the galaxy and hadn't blinked. Captain Thompson brought him a drink. You know they'll come for us eventually. The council doesn't forget. I know, Jackson said. But maybe, just maybe, we've started something bigger than us. Maybe other species will find their courage too. And if they don't? Jackson smiled grimly. Then humanity stands alone. Like we always have when it mattered. Outside the viewport, Earth hung in the darkness like a blue jewel, a planet of warriors, dreamers, and stubborn fools who had never learned to kneel. The galaxy was about to learn why that mattered. In the days that followed, the investigation began. Evidence was gathered. Testimonies were heard. The council fought every step, but the momentum was unstoppable. 17 more species joined the inquiry, demanding transparency, demanding change. Humanity had lit a spark. And across the galaxy, in the hearts of countless beings who had lived too long in fear, that spark was becoming a fire. The Yatari would not be forgotten. Justice would be slow, imperfect, and hard-won. But it would come. Because that's what humans did. They demanded the impossible and made it real.